council, may I at this time invite impact statements? I think that the court had identified earlier the order in which we would receive them. Unless there is reason to deviate from that, we would proceed in that way. And by invitation, I could ask the state to call them forward individually.
I think that's
Right. So I think, yes, the defendant's mother wants to begin. I'll invite her forward. And ma'am, what you'll do is you'll come to the lectern. And it looks like you've prepared remarks. You may present those. And I'll have you start by stating your name and spelling it for the record.
Patricia Best, B-E-S-T. As mother, mother-in-law, and grandmother of those lost, I too am a victim of what happened. Along with my family and friends, and everybody who knows Jeremy and Callie well, none of us can believe that the Jeremy we know could have possibly done something like this. Knowing him as well as I do, I can only believe that his actions were due to a complete mental breakdown. I love him, and I always will, and I know he will bear a horrible burden the rest of his life. My late husband Greg and I loved Callie very much. We knew her well. It was actually a co-worker of mine who introduced Callie to Jeremy, and they had really an instant connection. They were a good match, and they were happy living a rural lifestyle in the West. They did most things together, working in the auto shop, snowboarding, dirt biking, boating, camping, and traveling. Callie was a lovely person who fit easily into our family. During the years we lived in Jackson, we saw her at least once a week, and we shared many holidays and camping trips with Callie and Jeremy. Later, when Greg was suffering from Lewy body dementia, they both helped take care of him when I had a major surgery in Salt Lake City. Callie was a bundle of energy and a very hard worker. She was a really good person, and her loss is unbearable. As for Zeke, I got to know him during a week in Victor in June of 2023. I held him, rocked him, fed him, and changed him. Callie and I took a lot of walks together with him in the mountains. After that, I had many FaceTime visits with him, and I will always picture him with a huge smile, crashing into the kitchen cupboards with his round walker. Circa 1970s, which Jeremy got. He got all kinds of equipment on eBay that was like the stuff he had when he was a child. Zeke's middle name was Gregory, so he carried my husband's name. After his death, I had a hard time speaking about him. For many months, I put away pictures that reminded me of him. I still protect myself by pushing thoughts of him out of my head when I can't cope, especially at bedtime. It has taken me a year and a half of doctors, counseling, and medication to get me to the point where I can now look at other babies and enjoy the grandchildren of my friends. Probably because I'm Jeremy's mother, I was not included in the memorials for Callie, Zeke, and Freya, so closure did not happen for me. Callie's family has avoided all contact with me. It feels to me like they in some way blame me for what happened. Additionally, the county prosecutor dragged me to court and falsely accused me of mishandling Jeremy's assets as his conservator, a task that I willingly took on because it was something that I felt I could do, something that would keep me very busy, and it has for the past year or so. And now, of course, I have also lost Jeremy, in the sense that he will not be with me in my old age. He will not be able to take care of me in the future as he always said he would. Instead, I live every day hoping that he's not suffering for this act, which is as inexplicable to him as it is to those who know and love him. Thank you.
Good afternoon.
May you, if you'll give it maybe as a bit of reach. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'm Jean Linda Shrine. I'm Callie's mother and Zeke and Freya's grandmother. I really want to say thank you for letting me try and share some of the impact that this event has created in our lives. My life, my children, and our extended family. I'll do my best to be composed and appropriate. That's my goal. I'm going to start out by saying my girl, my Callie. She was so many things, it's just hard to know where to start. She rode dirt bikes and motorcycles, snowboarded, hiked. She was a chicken farmer, a sourdough expert, part service boat captain, but mostly was a giving, caring, compassionate soul, and a beautiful mom to precious Zeke. 12/1/23, our Callie was gunned down outside her home of 12 years. As she died, her unborn daughter, Freya, perished as well. Her son, Zeke, had been snatched from his home and was in danger. She was face to face with her slayer and couldn't save herself or her children. That night, she saw a face of evil. We were alerted to this tragedy when there was a manhunt for her spouse and an Amber Alert for Zeke. We waited in fear, not knowing what the fate of our precious Zeke was. We didn't know if he was afraid. Was he cold? Was he hungry? Was he calling for his mama? Then we found his fate. He had been murdered by his father. Finding words to describe the impact of this tragedy is torture. She was so loved. Friends, family, and community. She was full of life. Her name even means energy. She was joyous, curious, loving, compassionate, and a child of nature. Since Callie has passed, we have heard so many stories of how she impacted with beauty and grace to the community and how she touched many lives. I can picture how she died. I know how Zeke died. It haunts my dreams, and I am broken. I will never hear her say, "I love you, Mama," ever again. And that was the last word she said to me on the very day that she passed. The grief is unbearable, and I'm forever changed. Becoming a mother opened her heart to a new level of love. She showered Zeke with love and rejoiced in him. And each day brought new milestones to share. We have videos of his little giggle. We always said he sounded like Pee Wee Herman. A video of Callie dancing and singing to her boy. It all ended too soon. We will never know who Zeke would have become, and we will never have the joy of welcoming our granddaughter Freya to our family. There's no end to our sorrow and grief. Her father, stepfather, brother, sister, nieces, and nephew, along with our entire family, will live broken and grieving to the end. And now we are at the end of our journey, a long, arduous journey full of anxiety and pain. We need justice for Callie, for Zeke, for Freya, to show that their lives mattered. They were treasured, and the loss of them is unbearable. And in this all, I too see the face of evil. Thank you.
Your Honor, my name is Randall. I am Callie's father. I remember Jeremy telling me, "Don't worry, Dad, I will always take care of your girl forever." And now these are shallow, hollow words. I remember the day Callie was born, we were surprised and overjoyed to have a redhead. She needed She grew into a beautiful, free spirit. She kept moving closer and closer to the Tetons. First it was, "Dad, drive me to Denver." Off we went to Denver. What's next? Off to Bozeman. She needed the mountains and the fresh, clean air. She needed to feel free. Finally, Teton Valley, her home, her place to shine, raising chickens, snowboarding, dirt biking, and even becoming a boat captain. She loved sharing her mountains and Jenny lakes on my annual visits. You could see how happy it made her. I grew to love her place as well. Oh boy, guess what, Dad? I'm having a baby. What a beautiful surprise. Brought so much love and joy into her world and our world. And now, December 1st, 2023. That phone call from my ex-wife team shook our world. Callie was gone and baby Zeke was missing. We lived in panic and terror. My dreams are now haunted by this horrible scene of her lying dead, shot to death, and the knowledge of her son murdered. And baby she was waiting for would never be born. Each day I ask myself, how, why, and no answer comes. I not only have to survive without them, but I am going through a long, drawn-out legal process, a system that protects criminals and that is slow and challenging. It's a daily fight for what little justice we can get. We live out our lives overwhelmed with grief and sadness. Each hearing, court motion filed to the judge tears our hearts apart. It's a hollow request. There's no true justice. She will no longer hike her trails, no longer bake bread and tend to her chickens. She'll never get a chance to raise her children, to sing and dance with them and shower them with her love. And I imagine what could have been. I will live out my life in grief and pain. You broke your promise to me in the most horrible way. I have no forgiveness in my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. So, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Honorable Judge Watkins, thank you for your time. My name is Brian Randall. I am the older brother of Callie and the uncle of Zeke and Freya. It has been 601 days since our lives were shattered. I want that number to sink in. 601 days since December 1st, 2023, when we received a call no one should ever have to answer. At 5:30 a.m., my mother's shaken voice told me that Callie was gone, Jeremy was suspected of killing her, and Zeke was missing. That moment is seared into my memory. It haunts me in my sleep, in my waking hours, and every time the phone rings unexpectedly or at odd hours, thinking nothing good could be on the other end of that call. I was the first to call the Teton County Sheriff's Office. I can't imagine to begin the look on the dispatcher's face when I said who I was, what I needed to speak with Detective Stevens about, and begged them to know, was Callie alive or dead? What was the status of Zeke? What was happening, period? She took our information and said he would call us back. And then came the waiting. I paced, I cried, I clung to my wife, who was my rock, even though she had nothing left to give in that very moment. She was just as lost as I was, but she held me anyways. In that moment, when the world was falling apart, she carried both of us. Neither of us was prepared for what we were facing, but we faced it together, in silence, in sorrow, and in sheer disbelief. I stared at the phone, willing it to ring, and when it finally did, my heart just sank. They asked me questions, so many questions, asking for phone numbers, where he might be, who he knew, who might help him, and then, after long, heavy pauses, the words came, Callie was deceased. Those words echo endlessly. Their weight never fades. They cut as deep today as they did that morning, and I know they always will. I remember waking my kids, telling them that we had to leave right away. Still in their pajamas, we rushed to my mother's house. The questions came quick and fast. What do we say? How will they understand? What details do they need? How do we explain that someone they loved, someone they talked to, someone they were close to, even from a distance, is just gone? And where is Zeke? There were no easy answers, only silence, only heartbreak. That was an agonizing 10-minute drive. Those first few hours at my mother's house felt like days. Family coming and going, waiting in agony for any updates from Idaho. We knew what we had to do, though. We had to get to Idaho and do it fast. That meant I had to leave. Leave my kids, leave my wife, leave my family, when we all needed each other the most. And just like that, I stepped into a role I never asked for. I became the point of contact for law enforcement, prosecutors, victims advocates, friends, family, and soon after as the state administrator for Callie. I had to fill out so many forms. I felt physically sick writing the words homicide over and over again, like reliving a nightmare on repeat. I found myself on plane after plane, holding on to hope with trembling hands, trying to keep it together in airplanes, airports, public places where no one knew the storm that I was carrying. I ran out of Kleenex. My sleeves were soaked. I must have looked like an unwell to strangers around me, but I was grateful that they didn't know why, because even now, I feel like I ruin people's days when I tell this story when it has to be told. I'll never forget the moment I got the call about Zeke. I was on the runway, literally speeding down the runway, just about to take off on my final flight to Idaho. My cousins, toys told me what my heart already feared. Zeke was gone. The man next to me on that plane had no idea what I had just learned, and I'm still glad to this day that he never will. Those first 7 days in Idaho, they weren't just a blur, they were a storm. A relentless, suffocating storm of grief, chaos, and responsibility I never asked for. I was torn away from my wife, my children, separated from people I needed at the time that I needed them most. And instead of mourning, I was thrown into meetings with law enforcement, with funeral homes, with lawyers, with strangers asking questions I didn't want to answer about things I never wanted to know. I was forced to make decisions no one should ever have to make, to carry burdens no one should ever have to carry. And all of it, every second of it, was because of one coward's choice, one act of violence, one act of destruction. The burden of this is like a boulder crashing into a still pond. The waves ripple outward, fast, violent, and endless. And just when they start to settle, the boulder drops again. And again, it just never stops. This pain, this impact touches every part of our lives. There's no corner untouched, no moment unshaken. I am not the same man I was before that. That version of me, he's gone. And that man who remains is still trying to understand how to live in this new reality. The damage is everywhere. It's in our mental health, uprooted and shattered. In new diagnoses, PTSD, anxiety, in the fuse that's now shorter and burns faster. It's in the impossible task of explaining to my children what happened and watching it change them, knowing it will shape them for the rest of their lives. In the boxes of her life, frozen in time, were all my sister's belongings. And we have to go through them, every item, every memory, sorting through the pieces of who she was, knowing she'll never touch them again is unbearable. In the trust that's harder to give, and the songs that once brought joy are now poisoned by memory. And in guilt, the endless acting guilt on the what ifs and the should haves, the maybe we could have, even when we know maybe we couldn't. We're left to survive a version of us that we didn't choose, a version forced on us by one man's monstrous decisions. This path, this pain was never ours to choose, but we walk in it anyway, because we have to. Because of my kids, because of my wife, because of all those who loved her, because of the family that holds me up when I can't stand on my own. And every day, I fight to bring back the parts of me that were stolen, but not for me, but for them, because they deserve the man I was before all of this. All of this, every ounce of pain, every shattered life, was caused by one coward. A coward who was supposed to protect his family. My family trusted him, and he destroyed them all. This wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a choice, a cold, calculated decision to end their lives and walk away from the wreckage he created. He murdered his entire family, even a family pet, and yet he spared himself. He wore a mask for the world, charming, polite, convincing, so no one believes the people closest to them when they cry out for help. No one sees the manipulation, no one sees the control, till it's too late. It's infuriating, soul-crushing, that he still clings to hope for freedom, hope for the return to normal. But there is no normal after what he has done. He didn't just take lives, he shattered futures, tore apart family, and left a permanent scar on everyone who loved him. His actions were not impulsive, they were cold, calculated, and catastrophic. He is not just a danger, he is a threat to the very fabric of safety and trust in our society. He must never again be given the chance to harm another soul. Your Honor, you hold the power to stop this nightmare from ever repeating. You can ensure that no other family is forced to stand where I stand, shattered, grieving, and forever changed. Let this be the last time anyone has to speak these words in connections to this person. Let this be the moment justice draws a line that cannot be crossed again. Thank you, Your Honor, for giving me the space to speak, for allowing me to be the voice for Callie, for Zeke, and for Freya. They can no longer speak for themselves, but we can and we must. Sharing this has been one of the hardest things I've ever done, but in doing so, I carry their memory forward, I honor their lives, and now, having said that what needed to be said, I can finally take a breath. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, well, counsel, what the court will do is take
We have one.
is there an additional one? Em, if you'll introduce yourself to me first.
My name is Emma Bryce, and I'm Callie's little sister. Your Honor, 5:18 a.m. on December 1st, 2023 was the worst moment of my entire life. I was the first in our family to find out that one of the most beautiful humans on this earth, my sister Callie, had been horrifically murdered. That our sweet baby Freya was gone, and that the sweetest, happiest, most love-filled baby boy Zeke was missing. All at the hands of the very person we trusted to keep her safe. My sister didn't deserve to feel scared. She shouldn't have died trying to protect her children from such a monster. I can still vividly remember the moment I had to call my mother and tell her that her daughter was dead, that her unborn granddaughter was gone, and that our baby Zeke was missing. It's something no daughter should ever have to do, something no human being should ever have to live through. I can still physically feel the air drain from my chest. I can feel my heart shattered all over again every time I talk about that morning. Pacing my home in a panic, calling my brother, calling my husband, choking out the words, our sister is gone. And later, I had to tell my mother that her grandson, our sunshine, had also been maliciously murdered. I can still hear her screams. I hear them in my sleep. I hear them in the quiet. And I hear them when I look at my own child and realize how fragile everything truly is. Callie wasn't just my sister. She was my biggest cheerleader. She was inspiring, bold, motherly, and always told you exactly what you needed to hear. Some of the things I'm so glad to have learned and embodied from her throughout the years. My daughter Lainey was born very shortly after Zeke, and Callie and I were navigating the wild, beautiful chaos of becoming new moms together. We didn't always parent the same way, but we were doing it side by side. We had each other. And now I don't have that anymore. Aside from the almost daily video messages we would share back and forth, oftentimes just sharing mundane parts of our lives, something I will cherish for a lifetime. I think about my daughter Lainey growing up without Auntie Callie. I think about the day that she learns the truth about what happened, that the aunt who loved her so deeply, who would have been one of the most incredible people in her life, was taken in such a brutal and senseless way. And I hate that she has to grow up in a world where someone like Callie is only a story, only a photo, never a hug, never a laugh, and never a real memory. That is a theft that no child should endure. Zeke was joy incarnate. He had a smile that can melt stone and a laugh that lived in your bones. He was supposed to be running around now. He was supposed to be learning his words, helping his mom make bread, singing and dancing in the kitchen, exploring the mountains and being the best big brother. He and Lainey and Freya should have been growing up together, cousins, friends, partners in mischief. That future was stolen. The man who did this didn't just murder 3 people. He destroyed futures. He murdered our sense of safety, our family's peace. He upended every part of our lives. My mother's grief is bone deep. I've seen such a deep and everlasting change in the soul of her being as she navigates how to hold strong for us when she has nothing left to give. My father's grief is unbearable, and there's a change in him now that I can't quite put into words. Only that watching him grieve is like watching a strong man try to stand in a storm that never ends. And my brother has carried a burden that no one ever should. He has been the backbone of our family through this. He's handled every legal conversation, every impossible detail, every horrifying responsibility that no son and no brother should ever have to face. And he's done it with strength and grace, even as he's breaking inside as well. And my husband has had to be my rock in all of this. He stood by me in moments when I couldn't breathe, when I broke down in the middle of the day or couldn't sleep at night, while navigating his own grief for the family he married into and loved so. He has had to carry mine as well. He shouldn't have had to, but he did, because this tragedy touches everyone who led Callie and those children. I now live with anxieties in ways I never did before. I question everything. I wake up scared as I remember the vivid nightmares. I worry about things that never would have crossed my mind before she was murdered. I'm sadder, more guarded, more afraid of the world around me. I feel it in my body, in my sleep, in my parenting, and in my relationships. I will never be the person I was before this happened. That version of me died the same day as my sister did. What's left is someone who's learning to live around the hole, but who will always carry it. Always. This didn't just happen to Callie, Zeke, and Freya, it happened to all of us who loved them. And while nothing can bring them back, I am here today to ensure that their names are spoken, that their lives are honored, and that the court understands what was taken from this world. There's no sentence long enough to restore what's been lost, but I hope this courtroom, this system, recognizes the depth of this loss, and that justice, as far as it can be served, is served for Callie, for Zeke, for Freya, and for every life forever changed by this horror. Thank you.